Aquarium Lab here at the Draper Natural History Museum, and this is where specimens are prepared. So we get a lot of animals that are salvaged. So that means they may have been hit by vehicles, they're picked up as roadkill, or they might have ended up at our local rehabilitation center for some other reason. And if they don't survive, then those specimens can come here for us. Some of our specimens that we end up with are confiscated from Wyoming Game and Fish Department. Maybe it was a poaching case or something like that. At the Draper Museum, we don't collect animals. We don't go out and shoot them and bring them here to process them to have them in our museum. That's one of the things that the Draper Museum is really not about. We are here to promote wildlife and conservation. And so all of our specimens have been salvaged in one way or another, which is one of those things that we're all really proud of here. So we're going to use the taxidermy down here to our advantage today, since Kateri's not with us. So that I can teach you a little bit more about golden eagles. And this program was requested specifically by Grayson in Thornton, Colorado, who is working on a report about eagles, and he wanted to learn a little bit more. So Grayson, thank you so much for requesting that we do this program. We're happy to do that for you. So let me start telling you a little bit about golden eagles. A lot of people in the US aren't even aware that we have two different species of eagles. If you are a US citizen, there's a 99.9% chance that you know that we have bald eagles. It's our national symbol. So everyone's pretty aware of bald eagles in this country. And they're more widespread than golden eagles are. So you can find bald eagles spread across the country, from Alaska down to the tip of Florida and right down into northern Mexico, and from East Coast to West Coast. So most people in the country, if you're near water, if you get to be near water of some kind, you have a decent chance of being able to spot bald eagles. Golden eagles are different though. So they aren't confined just to North America. Golden eagles are species found across the northern hemisphere. So it's not just here in North America that you can find the golden eagle. You can find them in Europe, Asia, and Northern Africa as well. So this is a much more widespread species. But in the United States, its range is a lot smaller. These birds have very specific habitats. So like bald eagles, they're fish eagles. They like to be near water, whether that's a big lake, a small lake, a big river, coastlines. The bald eagles, because they love fish so much, they tend to be near those waterways. Golden eagles have a totally different diet and totally different habitat needs. So you don't get to see them as often. In North America, we find them primarily in the Rocky Mountain West. There is a population that breeds out in the Appalachian Mountains. So you can find them out there, and they winter out there in the Appalachia. But we are really fortunate in Wyoming, because in North America, we have one of the most dense populations of golden eagles. And it's one of those really exciting things about living out here. This is an iconic species of the American West. And typically out here we find them, they love the mountains, but they want the open or the semi-open areas. So that's the kind of habitat they're looking for. Right here around us in Cody, Wyoming, they really seem to prefer our Bighorn Basin, which is basically a sagebrush steppe. So we get quite a few birds. In fact, we study golden eagles in the Bighorn Basin through the Draper Natural History Museum. And that's a project that we've been doing for almost 10 years now, I believe. So we do a lot of work and a lot of research on golden eagles in our area. So we know a lot more about how they are specifically here, because they can vary depending on where they live. But what's really amazing about golden eagles is that you're looking at an apex predator. So when we talk about apex predators, these are the animals at the very top of their food chain. So there aren't any predators, natural predators, for a golden eagle. Realistically, the only threat to them are humans. Other examples of apex predators: grizzly bears, wolves, orcas, and humans. We are an apex predator as well. And being an apex predator, these birds have some really cool tools, some adaptations that they use to help them survive and to stay at the top of their game. And I want to go through some of those with you and what makes golden eagles really so special. So the biggest thing about them is really their size. That's the most noticeable thing about golden eagles. And for folks that don't have a chance to get close to an eagle, it can be incredibly amazing when you finally see one up close and see just how big these birds really are. Now, the taxidermy that's next to me, this is actually a relatively small golden eagle, most likely a male. In the raptors, the females are usually about 30 to 50% larger than the males. And so this one, I'm basically comparing this one to our girl Kateri. This guy is a little bit smaller. And on average, golden eagles are going to weigh anywhere from about 8 to 13, 14 pounds. It might not seem like a lot, but if you think about a red-tailed hawk or even just a chicken that might be in your backyard, those are going to weigh maybe 3 pounds. So a golden eagle is way, way bigger than those guys. And one of the tips that I give our travelers that are coming through, if you see a bird that's on top of one of those big power poles and it is as big around, hi Rayanne, good to see you. If you see a bird that's as big around as that pole, it's probably going to be a golden eagle because they are just really huge. And on top of the weight that they have, these birds have huge wingspans. So golden eagles can have anywhere from about a 5.5 foot wingspan all the way up to 7.5 feet across. So these are really big birds. Just to give you kind of a comparison, a red-tailed hawk, which is the hawk that most of us are going to see across North America, they have about a 3, maybe 4 foot wingspan. So they're much, much smaller. So I'm going to try to show you here as well. It's just not the same when you're not live, but this is a feather, a wing feather from Kateri, our golden eagle, just to show you how big this is. And I know I can't really get a great size in there, but I'm going to bring the quill up so you can see how big that quill is. This is where the feather actually attaches to the bird's body. It is almost as big around, sorry about that, almost as big around as my finger. And that tells you a lot. And it also, if you've paid attention in history and you know the eagle quill feathers were prized for being able to write with, part of the reason is because they were so big. And not only that, but they are absolutely beautiful as well. So just to kind of show you, this feather by itself is about as longer actually than my forearm. It actually extends longer past my fingers, if you can see that from here. So that is just how big these birds are. And Kateri is a large golden eagle. She has a little over a 7 foot wingspan, and right now she's about 12.5 pounds. In the winter, she gets up to about 14, which is the high end of that normal range for golden eagles. So these are really big predators. And most of the apex predators across the globe really are large. And that's because the bigger you are, the harder it is for somebody else to eat you. But what's amazing about that is that they don't have to eat big things. In fact, golden eagles, even though they're an apex predator, across their range, about 70 to 75% of their diet is made up of rabbits and hares. So they're not going after huge things all the time, but they can. So although most of their diet is rabbits and hares, these birds have been known to take down other birds. They go after lots of reptiles. In our studies, we find lots and lots of snakes in their nests. They go after other smaller mammals like ground squirrels, prairie dogs, marmots up in the high country. They'll go after fox and coyotes. And what is truly astonishing is that these birds are big enough and powerful enough that if they want, they can take down a healthy adult pronghorn. And that is a phenomenal accomplishment. It's not easy to do. Most of the time they'll do that as a pair in a team, but any way you look at it, that is incredibly difficult to do. But these birds have that ability, and if they can hone in their skills, they can get really good at it. But like most predators, they are going to take advantage of those easier opportunities. So most of the time, what they're doing is they're helping keep their prey populations healthy and strong. So rather than going after the biggest, strongest animal in a herd or in the field, they're going to go after the weaker ones. So whether that's a sick one, if it's an older animal, or if it's a young animal, those are the ones that are most likely to be taken. So they keep those prey populations healthier by taking the ones that are less productive for that group. So they're taking the weaker of the species out there. And additionally, these birds love to scavenge. So they're not 100% scavengers, but they do a lot of scavenging. And if you're not familiar with that word, a scavenger is an animal that finds its food already dead. So they're not hunting, they're not out gathering things, but they find an animal that has died from some other means, whether that was killed by another animal, or if it was hit by a car, or if it died of natural causes out in the field. These guys love to take advantage of that situation. And you can't blame them. It's a really easy meal. And if you can save some energy and find your dinner rather than have to hunt it, it makes it a lot easier for you. So these apex predators, they can eat a lot of different things, but most of the time they're focusing on just a few species. And what's really important about that is just how much good they can do for us. Out here in the Intermountain West, a lot of times we can have conflicts between our ranchers and our wildlife. And it's understandable. If you're spending your time raising these animals, you don't want to lose it to a predator like an eagle or a wolf or a cat. But these birds, they're just designed to be these incredible predators. And so all of the tools that they have are going to be helping them to be able to have that specific lifestyle. So let's talk about some of those adaptations right now. And when you look at this bird, the first thing you're going to notice is the feet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the camera, I'm going to switch it around so that you guys can see these feet. I'm going to get up a little closer on it, so bear with me here. I have it stuck on a tripod. There we go. All right. So we're going to take a better look at these feet and see if I can get a good angle that shows you. Now, golden eagles have incredibly powerful feet. Again, this is a smaller specimen, so this guy doesn't have huge feet, but on our girl Kateri, her toes are as big as my fingers. And I don't have small fingers, just in case you're wondering. And you can see also just how impressive these talons can be. Now, on golden eagles, those talons can be 3 or 4 inches long, which is basically the same size as a grizzly bear. So these talons get really long and they're very, very sharp. And I'll show you another example here in just a little bit of from another taxidermy that has some terrifyingly sharp talons. So these birds have incredible gripping strength, and that's what helps them take down really big prey. But it's also beneficial if you're taking something that's a little bit smaller, like a rabbit, because having a powerful feet and those sharp talons means that you can take them down a lot quicker. That's less energy that you have to spend, and it's less time that that animal can fight back, which could be detrimental to you. And we're going to come up onto our ceiling here and show you another taxidermy, and I'm hoping you can see. I got to get the right angle on this, and I'm not sure that I can. I was hoping to be able to zoom in on those talons and show you just how big they can get. So hopefully that gives you an idea there, just how big those talons can be, because that specimen that's up there on our ceiling flying is quite a bit bigger than the one that I've got sitting down here next to me. So golden eagles are going to use these incredible feet to be able to catch their prey. Now that wingspan is something else, and I'm going to back up here so you can get a really good view of these wings. And as I mentioned, they can be 7 feet, 7.5 feet across, which is much taller than the average human. And it's amazing what those are for. Now, if we go back over here to our soaring bird, you can see that the shape of these wings are perfect for soaring. So we have these wide wings with these big fingertips at the end. And that's the shape that you see when you've got a bird that does a lot of soaring. But don't let that fool you, though. Just because golden eagles are really good at soaring, they can spend hours up in the air, it doesn't mean that they're not also really fast. So golden eagles can dive 150 to 200 miles an hour. These birds can stop on a dime and they can turn in a heartbeat. So if you're looking for more information on that, if you want to see that in action, go ahead and go onto YouTube and look up, golden eagle takes out its prey. You can find some amazing videos, not only of their speed and their agility, but also of some of the amazing takedowns they have of larger animals too. There's some on there that are golden eagles versus mountain goats, which are phenomenal. Sorry, I'm going to try to get my tripod back down here. There we go. And one of the things that I love about golden eagles is that they're really smart too. A lot of these wild animals, all of their intelligence, let's say, it's not a great way to explain it, but a lot of their thought process is going to their hunting and to their survival. So they don't think and they don't reason the same way that we do. But these guys are smart. So golden eagles in particular have figured out that they can use the height of where they live to their advantage. So one of the videos, the golden eagle versus mountain goat, if you look up that one, you can watch them figure out that they just grab the mountain goat and they drag it to the edge of the cliff and let go. So they're smart enough to know that. And they've also documented golden eagles picking up tortoises, flying over rocks or roads, and to drop them to break them open. So these birds have figured out some really incredible ways to make their lives a little bit easier. So intelligence is definitely something that's really nice to have. But also, these guys have incredible vision. So if you've ever called someone an eagle eye, or you talk about how they have this incredible vision, it really does relate to those eagles. So we know that golden eagles can spot a rabbit from as far as 2 miles away. And that's really impressive because if you start thinking about it, rabbits and most prey animals are going to blend in with their background. They're camouflaged because you need to survive. You don't want to stand out because a predator is going to find you and they're going to take advantage of that situation. So these guys have phenomenal vision. And eagles do have large eyes. All the raptors have really big eyes for the size of their head. And I've got a replica skull here of a golden eagle. And looking at that head on, you can see just how big the eyes are and just how small that brain cavity is. I'm not making fun of golden eagles. I am just pointing out how important their vision is to them. So, they have these very large eyes that are packed full of color receptors. And we know that not only can they see far away, but they see colors better and they can differentiate the small differences in colors better than we can. And there are a lot of raptors and a lot of birds that can see colors that we can't, even into that ultraviolet spectrum. So they do have these phenomenal eyes. And I mentioned this the other day when we were doing our program about hawks and owls and the different adaptations between them. But one of the comments you get on eagles, when you look at this specimen, it looks very intense. It almost looks like it's angry, but it's not. That's just the natural way that those eyes are set up. And that's because of the brow ridge that these birds have. And I'm trying to get a good angle there so you can see. This bony structure right here that covers the eye is really important. It's not there to make them look mean or angry or intense. It's there to protect their eyes. So this not only is going to protect them from danger from things hitting their eyes, but it's going to protect them from the sun. So it shades their eyes while they're looking across the plateau, across the sagebrush steppe, across the mountains, and they're looking for their food. So that brow ridge is really important. And like I pointed out the other day, it's like us wearing a ball cap. We use that brim of our hat to help shield our eyes from the sun. And they're going to use that brow ridge in the same manner. So that helps them have an advantage as well. So another one of the questions that we got, and I forgot, I was going to go back to this point and I got distracted. One of the really cool things about the golden eagles here in Wyoming is just how much good they do for us. And the reason that I say that is because we do have such a large golden eagle population. The last count that we had was about 12,000 golden eagles in the state of Wyoming, and I think that statistic came from 2014. So if we have 12,000 golden eagles within our state, and these birds are eating, let's say, a very small amount. Let's say they only eat 2 cottontail rabbits a week. That's honestly not enough to keep a golden eagle alive. It's just not enough nutrition, but we're just going to go on the small side. But let's say they ate 2 rabbits per week, every one of those eagles. That means in 1 year, the golden eagles in Wyoming would have reduced our rabbit population by 1.25 million rabbits. And that's a lot of rabbits. And what you think about then is if we didn't have our predators like the golden eagle, keeping those rabbit populations under control. All right, I think we're back again. We've been having a lot of internet issues lately, so hopefully folks can hear me again. So just finished up talking about why these birds are so important in their control of those prey populations. So one of the other things that I want to talk about specifically for Grayson in Colorado as he's learning about these birds is the differences between bald and golden eagles, because that can be very challenging for a lot of people. One of the things, as I pointed out earlier, to know if you're looking at a bald or golden eagle is to know the habitat that you're in. If you are on a river, there's a good chance you can see both of these species because they both like water. The golden eagles aren't necessarily going to be looking for the fish. It has been documented. It's very rare that they're going to eat fish, but it has been documented. But what I tell folks is if you are sitting there and you see a big bald eagle up in a tree near a river and right next to it is a golden eagle, it's very unlikely that you are actually seeing a bald eagle and a golden eagle together. What you're probably seeing is an adult and an immature bald eagle. And the reason for that is because those immature bald eagles look a lot like golden eagles. So it takes about 4 to 6 years for a bald eagle to really look like a bald eagle, to get that really noticeable white head and white tail. So until that time, they're slowly going from an overall dark colored bird to slowly changing feathers out to have the white head and the white tail. So I want to show you some examples again. So we're going to adjust the camera and hopefully this doesn't make me lose my connection. And I want to start off by showing you an immature bald eagle. So this is a bird that's probably just maybe in its second year. And if you notice underneath, there is a lot of white on this bird. So there's lots of white in its wings, lots of white in its tail. Right there in his wing pits, he's got a lot. But what's really noticeable is his head. And when you're looking at this, it's not a white head. It's very mottled, but look at that beak. It's very big and it's very dark. So this is an immature bald eagle. So now if we slowly rotate, this is a view of our lab here, and we come over past some wolf specimens here, and we're going to show you an adult bald eagle. So the bald eagle is very obvious. Everybody knows this bird. White head, white tail back there. This guy's just a little dirty because he's pretty old. Big yellow beak. Look at the size and the shape of that beak on this guy. And one other thing I want to point out while I've got him here is look at where the feathers end on the feet of this bird, okay? That's one of the really good indicators of which species you're looking at. On the bald eagles, their feathers end above their feet. So you've got at least a good couple inches before you get down to the tops of toes. And you can see that again. We'll swing back around to our immature guy over here. And we'll look again at these legs. And you can see that the feathers stop a ways above the tops of those toes. So that is something that's very noticeable on bald eagles. Now, when we come over to our golden eagle and we look at those feet again, the feathers come all the way down to where those toes start. Golden eagles are what we call booted or true eagles. So their feathers come all the way down their legs to the tops of their feet. And let me come to the side here so you can really see those leg feathers and how they come down there. There are only 3 raptor species in North America of the daytime birds that have those feathered legs. It's the golden eagles, rough-legged hawks, and ferruginous hawks. And we're very fortunate in Wyoming, we have all 3 of those species here at some point during the year. So if you can see the legs and you know that the bird has feathers that come all the way down to the tops of the toes, you know you're looking at a golden eagle. If the feathers stop higher, more likely that you're looking at the bald eagle. Now the other thing on there to check for is going to be that beak. Remember how huge, tall that beak was on the bald eagle? It almost looks like it's too big for his face. But on the golden eagle, it's not nearly as tall. So they still have a big beak, but it doesn't stand up quite as high. And I'm going to grab my replica here of the bald eagle's skull, and I'm going to try to hold this up next to it so you can really see that difference. So you can tell that the bald eagle's beak is way taller. And that's a characteristic of the fish eagles. And that's the group that the bald eagle is part of. So if you're seeing these birds and you're not really sure which one you're seeing, those are some things that you can look for and to be able to tell the difference. So just not having a white head or a white tail doesn't mean you're not looking at a bald eagle. The other big thing is on these golden eagles, I'll slide back here. This one is an immature, so this is more of a youngster, and we can tell because we have this big white band on the tail feathers. Adult golden eagles have solid brown tails. So this can be confusing as well, because that is not something that you expect to see on a golden eagle. But just to kind of give you an idea of what a normal tail feather on an adult would look like, I did bring down one of Kateri's. That is one of her tail feathers. So there's a little bit of white in it, but it's not a big white band that goes across. So you can see that even though this is just a big brown bird, they do have some amazing coloration in there as well. All right, so before we sign off here for today, if you have any questions, please drop those in the comments. I can answer them now, or I can do those after we get the program posted. But one of the things, there we go. Sorry, get my guy here in the background again. One of the things that's really nice about living in North America is not only that we have these two amazing birds, but that we protect them. About 50 to 100 years ago, these birds were very heavily persecuted, which means that people were being pretty mean to them, if you want to put it in the most simple terms. We thought of these as bad birds that would take our dinner from us, if they're hunting the same things that we are. And they got a bad reputation for taking out livestock as well. And I'm not going to tell you that they didn't do it, because sometimes it's an easy meal, and that's just an advantage in life. But these guys were being killed in very large numbers. But back in 1962, the federal government passed the Bald and Golden Eagle Protection Act. And that prohibits people from taking these birds, shooting them, keeping them as pets, destroying their nests, stealing their eggs, hurting them in any way. Because at one point, and this came from the federal government, they were offering a bounty. They were giving citizens money to kill bald eagles. And again, it was because we thought that they were a pest species. But unfortunately, that led to really, really low numbers of these birds. So by having the protections on them, not only are we keeping their populations healthier, we're keeping the prey populations healthier, and we're keeping them under control. So that these birds are incredibly beneficial to us. They help protect our environment. They help keep populations healthy and strong. And that's something that we really all need. Most people are aware that you can't have an eagle feather, and that is very true. There are Native Americans. If you are from a recognized Native American tribe, you can apply to get parts from eagles to use in your ceremonies. But for most people, it is strictly forbidden to have any part of either a bald or a golden eagle. But what most people don't realize is most birds in North America are actually protected. Maybe not as severely, but they're all protected in one way or another. So not only can you not have an eagle feather, you can't have a robin feather or a jay feather or a hawk feather. They're all protected by the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. And the protections are there because we tend to get a little crazy when we like something. And back in the early 20th century, people loved to put feathers in their hats. And we completely destroyed a lot of bird populations because we wanted their feathers for our hats and for pretty things. So they might seem like really harsh protections, but they're there for a reason. They're there to protect these animals because every creature out there has a specific purpose in nature. They have a niche that they fill and that we need them for. So here at the Draper Museum Raptor Experience, we do have permits through both the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the Wyoming Game and Fish Department that allow us to keep our birds for educational purposes. So we're not allowed to breed them. We're not allowed to do rehabilitation with them. We can only do education. But we have to go through a lot of paperwork, and we have to prove that we're able to care for these birds. And then when they drop feathers, we get asked a lot if people can have the feathers that the birds drop. We're required by law to send all of those feathers in. All of the eagle feathers go to one location in Denver at the National Eagle Repository, and they are in charge of distributing all of those feathers and the parts to the folks that have the permits and have gotten the permission to get those parts. So all of the feathers that we have, we keep some that we use for our educational programs like this, and then the rest of them we send down to Denver so that they can be used in religious ceremonies or for whatever needs the Native Americans might have for them. So if you have any questions that I didn't quite tackle during that program, please leave those in the comments. I really appreciate that you keep joining us for these. We're having a lot of fun doing our live programs, and we hope you're enjoying them as well. So we hope that everyone is staying healthy and staying strong, and that you'll join us again next time. And I'll post when we get that all figured out so everyone knows when to tune in again. Thank you so much for joining me, folks, and we hope you have a great rest of your week.